high-ranking British military were nearly all Tory in politics and of course took their cue from General Macready. This officer, who had in his final reports to the British government stated that his troops were in the last stages of exhaustion, no doubt gave expression to bellicose remarks to his colleagues. The Major also thought that the Irish would be at one another's throats in a few months. I put this down to another English libel at the time. If the treaty was not passed, he said, we will flood the place with troops. This was mere bluff, because we knew they had not got them. The great majority of soldiers who had gone through the First War had left the army, being heartily sick of soldiering. In fact, it was a good job for the volunteers that they had to face only poor, young, raw conscripts, for that is what most of them were. After all, it was the rank and file who carried the can, as they say themselves.
Castel o Griffith on Colonach, Barton agus o Duffy a gan hiche agus wanador dún leide amach hartar is sé Maidin. Bí dine géad on trí chlog a fannachlog a feidoch foi gála on gíomde chun fáilte rúpa. Chur bráidechas poblach na héireann fáilte ferimalta erim rivan Griffith agus rivan Colonach with a frechidor dún leide.
Na hefige agus na fér gur bhfuil mé lo, saoíocht dom grá marú lorú. Bhí cuid acu be cuine, bhí a súla atathe. Dan mynd go ngáfaí na tuscarí. Ní raibh aonú drás acu síú gan an scéad a churfií brád an rialtais. Héad a cuideacuin go ngáfaí iad cosúras a hanadar a dír ach níor hála ada. Hathan na cuidumpar leis na nuachtáin, chur na cóirlaí chunta aontas nó asaontas an úl. Héibigh an clír glahas catlicach trí chéile leis an síú. Heol mé na teachtarí chuig na ranáin timpeadorm, agus fuair mé amach go raibh céad agus trí ranán an deisgurt in aig an chonartha, ach go raibh an chéad ranán iarthach tríd is tríd ar a héamh. Bhí Dáil Éireann is cosúil chun díosbúireachta dhéanamh ar na hartagal. Céim fáil nach raibh ar chumas an uachtaráin sucrú a dhéanamh ar an gceist.
Golua an wadin sin hannig teachtarach do Chuisleán lá clia go raibh prísúnaí erim na poblachta le scuile sir an wadin sin. Bhí tionchor an chondra le feicáil go soléir ar fud na tíre mar a tuairiscíomh san Irish Independent. From an early hour, a huge crowd gathered outside the grim walls of the prison, and at about 11 o'clock, the front gates were thrown open, and a deafening cheer was heard when it became known that the men were about to emerge. Burdened with bundles containing all their personal goods, they appeared at the entrance, and according as each man passed through, he was subjected to an ovation which became almost frantic in its enthusiasm. Numbers of men were seen to shake hands with the British officers standing at the gate, and the utmost good humour prevailed on both sides. The majority of the men who were incarcerated at Kilmainham were arrested at the Custom House or in its vicinity on the day on which the building was burned. It was ascertained that about 200 untried and uncharged prisoners were released. Anion na ngára áthais las muid jas na prísún, bhí drach chóirí flúiseach. Ceagar fágú slán gárdach le na toscarí a London, bhí an áilte ar eis go héireann níos ciúne, chuidhá níos ciúne.
It was, in a sense, prophetic that there was no welcoming crowd and no signs of jubilation on reaching Dublin. Instead, the few people about seemed strangely apathetic. This lack of jubilation among the people was dispiriting enough, but it was nothing compared with the open hostility we faced in the cabinet drawing room of the Mansion House. De Valera was waiting there, looking gaunt and depressed, while Stack was in a blazing mood, and Brua was the personification of venom.
The cabinet meeting which immediately followed the delegation's return concentrated on the way in which the treaty had been signed without the cabinet's authority. It took Cosgrave's urgings for De Valera to agree to hear the delegation's account of what happened. Griffith's and Barton's arguments that they had only signed under conditions of extreme duress did not allay De Valera's, Stack's and Brewer's feelings that their trust had been abused.
Thosa an chóireacht lá fada tarsúil, clampaid agus garán, agus lean an sra prísúnach na prísúna ágáil. Las mu deichil bhainean thug muintir medlar agus crafí, eile cóirí áitiúla, marcecht do bhaile an na firsíra, agus ag ban medlar adagóbhsúd a bhí fannacht marcecht.
Chuirmar orgána agus ar ggóistí ar fad ar fáil don na fear éire, agus hiománamar a bhaile go dtí a dithe féin I maileach lia iad. Dul bhíh mis lón dó siúd a bhí ag fehéir doras. Bhí slú a geal ghóireach, báú ba gáile, saidúirí ag fearra ón malcóin os cionn an gheata. An saidúir a bhíh buint an galasta an gheata, bhí sé sin níos dá réire, is dó go tuis gur cá sé obair go cruaigh an bhaidin sin.
I arrived to find De Valera head in hands reproaching Michael Collins for signing. De Valera was to speak at great length that day. He centered his opposition mainly on the fact that the delegates had not referred back to him before signing as Griffith had promised to do, claiming that he would have gone to London had it not been for Griffith's promise not to sign without referral back.
I told De Valera that the whole situation had arisen because of his vacillation. He'd had his chance of going to London and had refused. The disaster was that we were not a fighting delegation. There was much discussion as to whether or not the delegation had signed under duress. Collins said that the position was that in a contest between a great empire and a small nation, the settlement was as far as a small nation could go. Until the British Empire was destroyed, Ireland could get no more. On that basis only was he intimidated.
Jede is casgréibh a thocra an scéal. Bhótal sé leis an Gulánach, an Grífach agus Barton a náid brú de Stack agus De Valera. Hepe an iarracht an Conradh a dheoltú gláán amach agus inis lochach an díospóireacht go dtí an Dáil. Ní rag De Valera áras ag duine carthas sé héin, agus an líchi sin dailte sé for ógra.
A cháirde géil